Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. What's going on, everyone? Happy Monday. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. Hope you all enjoyed the Super Bowl if you watched it. If you didn't, I hope you enjoyed whatever it is that you did this weekend. For us here this morning, we're going to talk a little bit more about Ghislaine Maxwell and about how sick and depraved this lady truly is. She wrote a letter to Alex Acosta when Jeffrey Epstein was arrested the first time, where she gushed about how great of a man Jeffrey Epstein was, what he does for the community, how he is very charitable, how his, smile lights up a room, all sorts of crazy, outlandish, wild stuff, right? And what it does is it just shows you how depraved Ghislaine Maxwell is. It shows you how deeply she was involved with this whole entire Epstein trafficking ring. And like I've said from the beginning, much more than just being involved, folks. I believe that she was the catalyst. I believe that Ghislaine Maxwell was the brains behind this whole entire operation. And I believe that Jeffrey Epstein was just the vehicle used to get to where the mega group and Ghislaine Maxwell wanted to go. And Jeffrey Epstein was a willing participant, right? A guy who already had proclivities, a guy who's already into young girls. So it was a match made in hell for these people, right? And Ghislaine Maxwell, people say, oh, she loved Jeffrey Epstein. She might have, she might have. But at the end of the day, Ghislaine Maxwell loves Ghislaine Maxwell. Nobody else. And you see that with the way she's going to ground right now. And I said from the beginning, I thought that the hacked emails were a ploy, and we've heard nothing else about that. I thought that was her firing a shot over the bow to let everybody know that she has those dossiers, and that if she gets hemmed up, if she gets wrapped up and caught up in all of this and she has to do time or she gets arrested, that she's going to spill the beans. And I believe that that's what that whole fiasco with the supposed hacked emails was about. I don't think her emails were really hacked. I think that she was just letting everybody that was involved in this trafficking ring and everybody who she has compiled information on, that if she goes down, they're going down with her. And I truly believe that that's what she did. And she's shrewd, right? We know that Ghislaine Maxwell is playing cloak and dagger kind of games. She's not a normal person. She didn't grow up the same way most of us did. She grew up in a court of throat cutting, backstabbing, conniving, and manipulating. And we see that in the way that she conducts herself in the public. We see that in the way she, manipulated the whole entire situation with Jeffrey Epstein, the way she would bring those girls in and go scouting for girls out at Central Park, go to find some nubiles. This is a woman who is very sick, very depraved, and she is a woman who needs to face justice, in my opinion. It is obvious Ghislaine Maxwell is guilty as charged. All right, let's jump into this article. It's from The Sun. Headline, praising a pedophile. Ghislaine Maxwell told prosecutors Jeffrey Epstein was a kind, loving man with a ready smile after sex abuse arrest. So I'll give you guys a second real quick to spit out the throw up that just came up that you were holding in your mouth after the headline. Okay, we're ready then. She went on to state that her ex-boyfriend had a keen sense of humor and a ready smile to try and help get charges against him dropped in Palm Beach. Well, of course she did. He was her asset. He was her, the vehicle that she was using to get to where she wanted to go. I truly don't believe that Ghislaine Maxwell has the capacity for love. Okay? Never mind, oh, she was in love with Jeffrey Epstein. I don't buy any of that. I mean, maybe on some sort of weird spirit cooking weird people level, but love, as far as you or I would consider love, I highly doubt that was the case. These people, we're dealing with incredibly sick people, folks. These people are incredibly sick, and I highly doubt they even know what the word love means. My experience of Jeffrey is of a thoughtful, kind, generous, loving man with a keen sense of humor and a ready smile, a man of principles and values, a man of his word, Ghislaine is quoted as saying in a document obtained by The Sun. I mean, are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me? What does it say about Ghislaine Maxwell? Just make pretend, suspend all knowledge of what we know about Ghislaine Maxwell, and say we only knew about Jeffrey Epstein, and then say we read these quotes that from a letter that Ghislaine Maxwell sent to Jeffrey Epstein. What would you think about her then, even without knowing her? Just on the face, this is absolutely ridiculous. On its face, this is the epitome, folks, of enabling. Not only were you bringing him into your, upper crest society, oh, no. Now you're even going to the prosecutors and vouching for this guy. See what would happen in the mafia if you brought somebody into the family like this and you vouched for them and they turned out to be something that they're not? Well, you're going to get clipped too. And that's basically what Ghislaine Maxwell needs to happen. She needs to be arrested right away. Right away, folks, because it's obvious. Not only was she involved in this whole entire scheme, but folks, she had a leadership role. If he made a promise, he would always follow through. In fact, I never saw him break a promise. It gives me the chills reading this. It's just so gross. It makes me ill. The testimonial was included in a 15-page biography of Epstein that was sent to Alex Acosta, who was the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida at the time. He is disciplined in business and conscientious, said Ghislaine, at a time when over 40 minors had come forward with allegations of sexual abuse. So over 40 girls had come forward at this point already, right? But in Ghislaine Maxwell's world, all that she cared about was he was disciplined in business and conscientious. Conscientious of what, Ghislaine? Conscientious of making sure that you compiled your dossiers? Conscientious of what, Ghislaine? To make sure that you were involved, that he had all the little girls that he needed? Conscientious of exactly what, Ghislaine? A man always quick to help someone who is down or to offer an opportunity to someone to pursue a dream or a goal. It's brazen right there in our face. She's throwing it in our face. Oh yeah, he was quick to offer an opportunity to somebody to pursue a dream or a goal if you let them assault them and abuse them and molest them and rape them and ruin their lives and then never even give them the carrot that he dangled in front of their face. Yeah, if that's what you mean about someone who is quick to help or, offer an opportunity, help someone who is down. But what do you mean down? Underprivileged girls that you roped into your web and then ruin their lives? Is that what you mean about helping people who are down? Ghislaine Maxwell is disgusting, folks, and I swear to you, the day she gets arrested, we're popping bottles on this show. 100%. I don't even drink, and we're popping bottles on this show, and I'm drinking some champagne because this lady, she is so offensive to everything that is not gross. I mean, anyone who can read about this lady and not be just completely put off from the word go, I don't know what to say, because this lady she deserves so much scorn and so much disgust that I can't even put it into words. The testimonials seemed to work in the end, and Epstein managed to get off with what a member of the state's attorney's office called the deal of the century. Boy, isn't that nice, huh? Even the state's attorney's office called it the deal of the century. And who did it go to? Jeffrey Epstein. Pedophile, human trafficker, money launderer, and all-around scumbag. Ghislaine was never seen with Epstein after he made his plea deal, but has remained a fixture on the New York social scene. Of course she was. Of course she was, because guess what? There is no crime too gross. There is no crime beneath them for these people in New York high society to shun you. Look at all the people that they keep in their circle, okay? I don't even need to tell you at this point. Just take a look. From Woody Allen to Jeffrey Epstein to, I'm sure they want Roman Polanski to come hang out with them as well. These are the people that think that they should lord over you, folks. These are the people who think that they should control your lives. These are the people who think that we are just nothing more than pawns on a chessboard. That's who we're dealing with, folks. That's who these people are in the New York social scene. That all changed in 2015 when she was sued by Virginia Roberts for defamation after denying claims of sexual abuse. She then went completely off the map earlier this year following Epstein's latest arrest and has not been seen in months. 12 years after the case, many of the victims are still seeking closure and have pursued lawsuits against the pedophile who took his own life in August, allegedly. Well, yeah, what should they do? What recourse do they have? Now, I don't blame them one bit. I would be charging hard for every last cent. If I was one of these women who survived Jeffrey Epstein, I would charge hard for every single last cent. Point blank, period. What else? What other recourse do they have? Epstein's dead. So the only way to get some recourse and get a little bit of justice here is to make sure that they get nice settlements. And of course, the cherry on top is Ghislaine Maxwell getting handled. Yeah, folks, she's just vile. She's just a vile human being. Those women are now getting a helping hand, too, from officials at the island territory where a number of them suffered their alleged abuse. Yeah, right, a helping hand, huh? Sure. Epstein's estate is being sued by multiple women as well as the Virgin Islands, with the latter hoping to seize or force the sale of his 2 island properties and other holdings in the U.S. territory. In the wake of the filing their initial complaint, the Deputy Attorney General of the U.S. Virgin Islands, Carol Thomas Jacobs, filed court papers arguing that the only way to guarantee the estate maintain the cash damages the government is seeking would be to allow her to intervene. Sorry, no, I do not like this Jacobs lady. I do not like the fact that she thinks that she's going to be involved in this. Why should they be involved? Why should the Virgin Islands be involved in divvying up any cash when they were catching cash on both sides of the deal here? They first got money from Jeffrey Epstein when he was first in the island, and he was paying them all off. And then now they're trying to get more money out of the estate. I don't like it at all. That money should go to the victims, the survivors, and that's it. A.G. Jacobs argues that the will is filed in her jurisdiction, as well as the fact that the U.S. Virgin Islands is the site of many of Epstein's alleged abuses of minors in court filings obtained by the Sun. She makes it very clear in her filing that she also wants to make certain those minor victims got their settlements paid out by the estate. Yeah, okay, cool. That's good. That's great. But the Virgin Islands isn't getting one single dollar. How about that? Okay, if you want to work to maintain and ensure that these survivors get money, that's cool. But you and the Virgin Islands are not getting one single dollar, okay? How about that? Under the framework of the fund, there is no obligation that the program administrator be subject to legal constraints imposed by the probate court or the supervision or approval of this court, and provides no assurances that the government's substantial and legally protectable interest in the distribution of the estate's assets will be protected, reads the motion to intervene. Look, just stay out of it, all right, Miss George? Just stay the hell out of it. You're muddying the waters here. You're making things a little bit more difficult than they need to be. Just step back and let this play out. Look, folks, if they cared about the survivors down in the Virgin Islands, they would have been protecting them from the beginning. Now that there's money involved, well, of course now she has to be involved, right? Later in the motion, A.G. Jacobs stresses to the judge that the government does not seek to supplant funds that victims might receive through the Epstein Fund or otherwise, but is entitled to ensure its own legally enforceable interest in the estate are protected. No, that's not what you're doing. You want the money. Just be honest, A.G. Jacobs. Just be honest. You're trying to exploit the situation to get money for the Virgin Islands. Point blank, period. Nothing else you say will convince me otherwise, okay? This is not about the government seizing property. This is not about the Virgin Islands coming up on a cash windfall, okay? This is about the survivors who should get this dough, every last penny. She also demands that the estate set aside funds for victims who may be too afraid to come forward or still dealing with trauma. Yeah, well, that's a good idea. But again, why can't you just be involved in making sure the survivors get their dough? Why do you have to make sure the Virgin Islands is getting a piece? Doesn't she understand that whatever she gets for her stupid little island, that's going to take it away from some of these unnamed girls or from some of these survivors? This was in response to the filing by the estate's executors that sought to require any victim seeking compensation to file their claims in the next few weeks, after which the estate would not be responsible for paying out any lawsuits. The estate wants this all to play out not in a court of law, but rather arbitration. And that's not going to happen. Look, there's no way that this is not going to see a court of law at some point. But my big problem with A.G. Jacobs is the fact that the Virgin Islands is talking about seizing islands. And if that's the case, what's going to happen is they're going to get that money. And these survivors aren't going to get nothing. And we all understand once bureaucrats get involved and the cash grab begins, they grab more cash than any of us. That's what they're built for. That's their job. And that's what they're going to do in this case. And I don't want to see one single cent go to any state entity, any county, anything like that, okay? Only to these survivors. This is improper, impermissible, and deceptive, stated A.G. Jacobs in a filing attached to her motion, which argued this would re-victimize the women. She hopes that this argument will ring true to Judge Carolyn Herman Purcell, who will rule on the AG's request to intervene in the trust while also determining if the estate's request to have secret settlements is legal. A.G. Jacobs could ultimately have control over the distribution of funds alongside Epstein's previously selected executors, lawyer Darren Indyke and Richard Kahn. Those men were painted in less than glowing terms by A.G. Jacobs, who wrote in her filing that their motivations would likely be clouded by the fact that they were involved in the same business entities for which Epstein could be found liable. The same goes for you, A.G. Jacobs. What are you talking about? There's a conflict of interest for you. We all understand this is about the money and not about the survivors. I can't hammer that point home enough. If it was about the survivors, you would have never let this take place on your island. Your people would have never looked the other way. Now all of a sudden you're some sort of, you're on a jihad for justice. I don't buy it. That would make the men far more apt to quickly settle claims, and the two would certainly have no interest in the protection of the government of victims, said A.G. Jacobs. Epstein signed the last will and testament just 2 days before taking his own life, allegedly. In the document, which was filed in the Virgin Islands, Epstein put the net worth at over $577 million. That amount is almost $20 million more than he told a federal judge he was worth in a court filing back in July. Oh, what do you know? Jeffrey Epstein lied, huh? Shocking. He listed his brother Mark as his lone heir, while Indyke and Kahan were designated executors alongside Boris Nikolic. Nikolic would later recuse himself from the position. Epstein put all of his holdings in a trust that he called the 1953 Trust, presumably after the year of his birth. That trust is valued at over $600 million. Folks, this is just beyond the pale. Every time I read about the Attorney General from the Virgin Islands, A.G. Jacobs, and her pursuit of seizing these funds, it makes me ill because I know exactly what she's up to here. I don't buy any of her story here, okay? Give me a break. Give me an absolute break. All of a sudden, the Virgin Islands government cares about these survivors? Well, where were you while they were being brought in 15, 20 at a time to your island? Where were you when these little girls were getting off the plane and then people in the traffic control tower were saying, man, those girls look young? Where were you then? Nobody stepped up. No cops drove out to see what was going on, to ask for IDs or anything like that. Nothing, right? Oh, okay. But now that there's 577 million fazuls on the line, all of a sudden it's a big deal. All of a sudden everybody cares. Well, we're not buying it. We see your motivations. It's very transparent, Attorney General Jacobs. Be ashamed. You should be ashamed of yourself. But nobody should be ashamed of themselves more than Ghislaine Maxwell. What a disgusting, evil, evil woman. And her day for justice is coming, folks. I feel it in my bones. I feel it deep down inside of me that Ghislaine Maxwell's day is coming. And on that day, we will pop a bottle of champagne right here on the Jeffrey Epstein Show. All right, folks, if you'd like to contact me, you could do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. Also, if you would like to help support the podcast, you can do that by clicking on the GoFundMe link inside of the description box. All right, everybody, I will see you later on for the Daily Drop. Enjoy your Monday.